So thanks everyone for joining this Q&A session today. My name is Phil. I've been a Missive customer myself since 2020, and I love the product so much that in 2024, I decided to join Missive to do customer support and customer success. So I'm here to help, here to answer all the sorts of questions you may have. You will see there's a Google Meet chat where you can type your questions. Just drop all your questions there. If we need to clarify something you want me to talk about, I'm going to, and we can have this discussion. But at least seeing the questions in the chat will help me prioritize based on who typed it first, instead of like hands raised, and then I need to see like who raised their hands first. If you need me to look like at a specific rule you're trying to build, that's fine. You need me to look at AI. You're wondering what's the difference between archive and closing, any sort of question, I can answer them. And yeah, so I'm just going to start now with Dora's first question. I want to know if there's any way to filter out my assignments from inbox so that I can see all other messages that are not assigned to me, or separate my personal emails from assignments so that any action I take on those boxes appear in the primary inbox. That's a really good question. The inbox, I see it like your personal notification center. That's where you see all your mentions. That's where you see all assignments that get assigned to you every time there's a task as well in the conversation that is assigned to you, or you're just watching a conversation. It's like this one here, for example, there's the eye icon that's enabled, means any new comment in that conversation will reopen in my personal inbox. And right now, no one's assigned to that conversation. So I understand how you'd want to selectively see that information other than your assignments. Like this one here, I'm assigned to this conversation, but it's also visible in my assigned to me section. If you go here on the filter, there's a bunch of different filters you can look at, like open or closed, that can help. But there's no sort of filter for not seeing something, if that helps. It's really like I want to filter on things that are selected on those filters. So it wouldn't really be possible. However, I think the best way to do this is to try to archive things you are assigned to, so they are not visible in the inbox
I do that.
anymore. Okay.
I do that.
That
Yeah,
would
but
be
it's just so manual, And, I used to have, how you have inbox assigned to me, text, etc. I used to have my personal email there, but then it was just like, it's here, it's there, it's
it was below like this.
Exactly. So I just remove that from the sidebar. And what I do is what you just said. Things that are assigned to me, I just archive them from the inbox.
For every conversation that is shared with you, conversation assignee change. If the assignee is me, you could have archived from personal inbox for myself.
Got it.
So
okay.
that sort of rule, whenever someone assigns you to a conversation, not to a task, only to a conversation, you could have that sort of automation using rules for this to work.
I'm
Just
going to try
making sure
that.
we're all on the same page here. An assignment, like that sort of rule needs to be an organization rules. So it works on organization linked conversation. If you create a conversation for yourself, like a personal conversation, that will not work. And the way you can see the difference between a shared conversation or linked with an organization and the private one, let's say create a new conversation, you will see there's no color banner on the left of it. If there's a color banner, it's linked to maybe a team inbox, maybe I mentioned someone, or maybe I used a shared label like bugs here that made that conversation linked. And now organization rules will trigger on those conversations. But usually assigning coworker means it's going to be linked to the organization because you're all part of the same org. Just making sure everybody's on the same page for the rules and everything. Good. Search tips. I want to search an email from XYZ email. That's good. Depending on if you use Gmail or if you use Outlook, you're able to use search operators. So that's something, we have a counter response for. So if you need me to, or usually you can just Google it for search operators, and those will work in Missive. So if I'm looking for a specific email with a subject, I can use subject ... and then type the subject itself. Or if I need a specific date, I don't remember exactly how they are, but I think it's like before and then like 2035, like 06, maybe. That sort of date can be used as long as you're using Gmail or Outlook, because if you have another IMAP server, usually those sorts of search operators are not used by general IMAP servers. So look for Gmail search operators or Outlook search operators on Google, and you'll be able to find the list of them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shortcuts AI. Well, that's a big one. I think the shortcut I like to show the most is the one when you click on your avatar, you will see enter a command. That shortcut is really useful because you see you have this sort of a command center inside Missive where you can go anywhere, you can do about anything you want. If you need to go to your shortcuts, you don't have to click on your avatar, settings, preferences, shortcuts. You can just type show for shortcuts and then press enter. And now you're in there. I press escape just to get back here. Command K, that's the shortcut. And if you're on Windows, you will see it won't be Command K, it'll be Control K. But on Mac, it's Command K. And I want to go to rules now. I type rule, enter, and then I'm in rules. Super easy to navigate in Missive. It's probably the shortcut you should learn the most to navigate in Missive efficiently. I've seen a person before that had like 100 different team inboxes to navigate between, and using Command K was how it solved the problem because I need to go to developers team. I just tap dev, enter, and then I'm in that team inbox. I need to chat with my coworker 2, co2, enter, chat with coworker 2, and then I'm in that conversation. Really helps when you know what you're looking for. You just type what you need, and it can be done like this. When you're in the conversation, that can be useful as well. Let's say this one now is just a conversation with Todoist here in our sandbox. I type Command K. I need to assign this to my coworker 3. I can do A for assign, C because that's the first letter of the name of my coworker, and then 3 because that's his last name. Assign to coworker 3. Enter. And now that conversation is assigned to coworker 3. I need to move that to another team. Instead of assigning it, I could do dev, assign to developers team, and move that conversation around like this. Really useful. Command K, Control K on Windows. Best shortcut ever. And then for AI, was there anything more specific you'd like to see? Or maybe I can talk about AI a bit later if that's fine.
No, I think you mentioned that as a topic that you might cover. So just curious. Yeah.
When deleting a user, how can we find out if they had any team accounts under their aliases? Example, Dora created training team help desk. If my user is deleted, what happens to, right? Usually, if someone had shared an account with you, you should see them in the accounts section. So for this one here, this JTest account, I can see it's owned by someone else. It's not super intuitive in the way that you kind of need to click on the account to see that information. But if you're thinking about deleting someone, it's usually best to reach out to us first because we have that sort of bird's eye view, that visibility of showing you, did that person connect a personal account or a shared account? And in both cases, we're able to tell you, hey, here's how you should preserve that information. We can see you're on Gmail, data migration works like this. You're on Outlook, data migration looks like this. And that sort of information, really useful. And usually when you try to remove someone, let's say I would remove this coworker here, you would see, are you sure you want to remove coworker 1? And here, coworker 1 will also lose access to messages from a shared account coworker 1 owns. So when you do this, before you click on remove user, you see, oh, okay, that account is being shared. That guy owns that email account. And what happens if you decide to remove that user is that if no one else connected that email account, or those emails were not migrated to another email account you own, those discussions will be lost from Missive. Because the way Missive works is it's a two-way sync with your email server. If an email exists on your email server, it exists in Missive. If it doesn't exist anymore, it doesn't exist in Missive anymore. So that sort of dance between your email server and Missive needs to exist for the sync to happen. And if you were to disconnect the account, remove it from Missive, and then add it back again, it's considered as a new email account. So all data would be lost as well, meaning that migration needs to happen where one email account is connected, you migrate the data to another email account, and then you can remove the old one. That sort of thing that needs to be done. But in any cases, contact us, support at Missive, and we'll be able to help with that.
Okay.
We don't do the migration ourselves. You kind of need to do it, but we tell you where to go, what to do with that sort of interaction with Missive. Good.
If I may share, just in case it helps anybody, what happened is that when we migrated to Missive, they had the departmental leads create their team spaces. And we don't think it should have been done that way. We think it should have been done at an administration level, like our IT department linking those accounts. So we're going back in there and doing a lot of what you just said. merging the account under another user
Mhm. One
because
thing that I've seen, yeah,
we
that's
had
a
it
good point.
recently.
And one thing that I've seen a few organizations do, and that's what I suggest sometimes for big organizations, is not to have your users connect the account themselves, to have some kind of like a master user, general admin account that is connected to Missive. Sure, you pay for an extra seat, but that
Yeah.
seat you can connect, everybody can connect to it through one password with a shared password or LastPass, whatever password manager you're using. And then that account, you connect all the different accounts and you share the account with everybody else. So like if Cindy has an account to be connected, that account connects Cindy at yourcompany.com and then shares the account with everybody else that needs to access it. But no one reads email from that admin generic account. It's like a dummy account just to make sure someone connected the account. But when you remove Cindy, the account of Cindy, it doesn't matter. It's not Cindy's requirement to migrate the data herself. You can do that on your end when you have time, but the account is owned by someone else and Cindy can be quickly removed from the organization. I hope that helps some people maybe with let's hope you don't get there and need to fire someone and remove them from Missive, but at least there's a way to do it and contacting us is always good. Diego's question. I'd like to better understand how to create a bot, use ChatGPT integration that uses predefined responses as a source of automatically draft answers to common question. Creating a bot in Missive is not really possible at the moment because the way you can create rules is via either incoming messages, outgoing messages. So you send messages through Missive and user actions.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was referring actually not to a bot, but exactly what you said. I mean, I'm doing a rule, invoking ChatGPT to get the responses, and to draft an answer.
Okay. Yeah, right now the AI can draft something, but it cannot send on your behalf unless you use an action like webhook to send your information to Zapier, Make, Relay. And then you can have that sort of flow where AI is being used, but outside of Missive, outside of what we can actually do, and you use like more powerful tools. But then that's outside the scope of our support capabilities. Usually we can help with rules, but whenever you're in that sort of I need to send information outside of Missive, then webhooks are the way to go. And then when that webhook is sent, there's always a way to send back that information into Missive. But here, let's say it's just drafting using AI in Missive we're going to use. The action will be AI draft, create draft with AI. And then you got to make sure that when you select your AI integration, the model you choose is the search mini preview, because that allows you to search the web. So the way the prompt works is that we make a call to OpenAI. We use your API key. We send the message itself. We send the prompt that you give us, and OpenAI has to figure out a response based on this. But create draft with AI, you cannot use your responses. You need to use some kind of a public available help center maybe. So if you have a help center on your website that can be scraped by the AI, then it's good to know like you are a support agent. Here is our help center, and like you have your help center like this in there. If it's about a feature request, do this instead. You have a lot of characters you can input into there. So the more you put information for the AI to work with, yes?
They can answer. I mean, I cannot use them. Not through Missive in itself, not having Make, get the can answer, get the information. Because I understood you could use those. Somewhere I read that.
Yes, you can use can responses, but it's not in the rules that it can be done. Rules are for automating, and that sort of a thing can only be done in the draft composer by yourself at the moment. So if I decide to reply to this email here, you would see I have a bunch of options here for AI, and these are prompts. And one of them is reply using can responses. So this one, what it does, this is the prompt that is being sent to OpenAI. You outright emails. Your task is to always return the body section. User message, bracket message, that's the content of the latest message. User FAQ, that's documentation. Those brackets, the calculation is made into Missive, but the message is read by us in a way that we look for the important keywords, and we send the top 3 can responses that make the most sense for AI to use crafting a reply. It's not always good, I would say, because it depends on exactly what the AI will provide you. In our case at Missive, I would say this is not really helpful because sometimes people have like API questions why didn't my rule work? And we need to investigate. We need to have more context than what the AI has access to. And it can work sometimes, but I don't want to have AI think for myself. I prefer like to work with AI than having AI work for me in that case, if that makes sense. But it really depends on what sort of business you have, sort of complexity you get in support. If I was an e-commerce company and all the questions I get are, when is my delivery, or what is your return policy? And then it's just a matter of like, here's the return policy. It's on our website. I send a link. That's easier. In our case, more complicated business equals OpenAI not getting it all the time.
Okay. Good.
And it's always good to switch the model as well in case you see like you need to use the web. You have a help center. Make sure to use a search preview as well and the model for that. Yeah. Okay. Dana's question. I use Missive for my own business, but I also recommend and implement Missive for my clients. Is there a way to get all notifications via the app rather than having to log into my email account tied to the separate Missive accounts? I see. So the way Missive works when you have an account is the account you created here. You can see my login email here. It's a Gmail account. I use this one to log in. But if you have a different login email for another organization you are in, then it'll be just two different Missive accounts. You cannot bundle your different Missive accounts into a single one. What you would need to do is to ask the other organization to invite you with this login email, so you're able to see all the different team inboxes, all the different notifications inside a single Missive account. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. But then how does that work with me having a separate email address with their domain?
In that case, you can add any sort of accounts you want to Missive. Here, you're not limited to a specific domain or anything. You can add any account you want. You can have up to 10 personal email accounts. And depending on the size of the organization, there's a limit for shared accounts. I can show it here. So let's say we were 10 in our productive organization here. 5 times 10, we could have 50 shared accounts before paying an extra every month for those. So it doesn't really matter. Do you have more than 10 personal accounts in your case? Would that be a limit?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, any personal account you have, let's say I'm going to unshare this account just for this demo. You will see any personal email account I have will be visible under inbox. So if I have up to 10, I'm going to see the 10 of them here, but they're going to be private emails. So only emails sent to me privately will show up here. If I get a mention in a shared conversation that's not related to my personal email, that's not going to appear here. It's going to show up in the inbox, the notification center, which is the inbox.
Okay. So essentially I have my own Missive account, which I get tied to their email, like that personal email address. And then they need to add me. So I don't really need other Missive accounts, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Probably not. Yeah. You can probably just use a single Missive account in your case. But it depends. I've seen some other people that really want to separate the clients they work with or their personal Missive account, like their freelance account, from their business account. And having 2 separate accounts help them in that case. But it really depends on your preferences here.
Yeah, I feel like I will miss notifications because it's a lot of internal chats. And so it'd be nice to have, like, my Missive app is always open. So it'd just be nice to have it all streamlined.
One thing you can do that I've seen people is have different Google Chrome profiles.
Yep.
So you're able to have multiple instances of Missive open into each profile you open. That could be one way to handle multiple Missive accounts simultaneously. But you'll have to have a lot of screens around you, I think, to be able to manage that. Like a trader that has like 6 screens just to see different companies. That might be a bit too much.
Okay. And then when they add me, so if I have, when they tag me, what account are they tagging? The one that's tagged to my Missive account, or would it be tied
They
to
mention you in a conversation, or when they invite you to join the organization?
mention a conversation?
Okay. Well, they're going to mention the only Dana that's remaining there. If there's 2 Dana, then they'll need to choose. But as soon as you remove the second Dana, then there's only going to be one when they press like @Dana and press enter.
Okay.
The other one's going to be removed.
Okay. And they're adding me as a guest or a member of their Missive?
That really depends on how you want to be included in conversations. A guest can be included in up to 5 conversations at once. So
Okay.
they'd have to remove you and add you back every time they need to share some information with you.
Okay.
So they might want to pay, well, if they're already paying a seat, should probably be best not to be a guest, but to be a regular member of that organization.
Okay. Thank
Good?
you. Yep.
Excellent. Mert, we already have a large backlog of emails in our Missive inbox, many of them coming from EOIR and similar systems. What would you recommend the best way to handle and organize these existing emails more efficiently? So you're getting new emails and you'd like to treat them like with a rule maybe to auto-archive them? Or you mean like past emails that were already received should be archived?
Actually, we need some rules or automation for archive for past emails and new incoming emails to tag system. We already tried to use rules. What can we do in the rules or automations? Can you show me too? How can we handle
First, it's important to understand that the trigger of a rule is the incoming message. So a new email landing in Missive. And that's why you cannot have a rule trigger retroactively on past received emails. If you need to archive things that were already synced to Missive before you started creating a rule, then you'll need to use the mass archive here. When you go to settings, accounts, you pick any account you own, you will have mass archive. So you can decide a certain date. Let's say I want everything before a month ago to be archived from my team inboxes, personal inbox, whatever, where that email is shared. Then I would select this. Then I would start a mass archiving process here. And so all previous emails before that date would be archived. But for new emails, you would need to have rules needs to be based on the sort of emails you get. If you get a lot of emails from different sources, but it's only like specific senders and subjects that should be checked, here's how I would build the conditions of a rule. Instead of using all here, I would use at least one. But then I can group conditions together. There's only one of the groups that trigger on that rule. Same actions every time, but different groups. The way I do this is I select the little icon here, nest condition in a new group. And then you can see it creates a group where at least one and all from that group. So I repeat that again. I do this like this. Let's say I want to always look for the subject as well, like this. Subject. So now it means that group needs to be true and that group needs to be true, but not all groups needs to be true for the actions to trigger. So if you have a lot of emails from a specific sender or another one, that sort of rule to rule them all can be created for this. Make sense so far?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. And in that case, the action you're probably after would be archive from team inbox or from personal inbox, depending on where the emails land. But usually it's team inbox and any team, if that sort of email is not relevant. If you need to separate those emails, then adding a label could also be useful, like automated EOER email or something like that, depends on what you need. But that's up to you at this point, I guess, to figure out like what actions make the most sense other than archive from team inbox. That would be the main one I would use.
Okay, thanks.
So far, so good? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Feel free to take a screenshot before I leave the screen. Perfect. Okay, Jeff, I believe previously we were adding assignees and due dates to every email and to turn them into tasks. However, we realized that a lot of emails do not contain specific to-do. Often it's just for awareness. So with guidance from Lewis, my coworker, we created an org level label called read and decide, where we drop emails for awareness to our CEO. However, he's struggling in terms of actions he should take from his inbox versus his read. Right, I understand. And
yeah,
maybe you'd like to clarify further.
Yeah, so it's like he was just getting, he's not the most organized guy, and he just gets with his inbox, like you mentioned, that's all activity and any comment, any new thing is coming in there. So this read and decide label, I'll just drop stuff in there for him, to kind of keep an eye on. And the idea was like he was going to kind of keep that relatively clean, but now that's become a lot for him to manage as well. And it's like, what is he, closing versus archiving versus snoozing? Like, I just want to understand the different like recommended actions that you would take from your inbox versus from a label like that.
I think that one thing that can be hard with labels, especially, is that a label can be applied to open conversations, archive conversation, A label is just data on a conversation, basically. So
Right.
if I want to have a label like invoices, I want that label to still be there for past invoices and future invoices I get. Like I don't want that label to be removed. However, in your case, maybe removing the label when it's not necessary anymore would be one way to at least keep that label tidy, if that helps.
Yeah, because it doesn't really, that's an interesting point, because the label in itself doesn't really mean anything. It's just a place to put stuff. So we don't really care if those labels come off, because that could be a one way for him to, so the instruction for him would be like, hey, if you've seen this and you're good with it and there's no further action, just remove the label.
Remove the label and be done with it. It's like your second inbox in a way. And as soon as you remove the label, it's as if you're archiving from your inbox. And if in the case that your CEO is getting too many questions, too many things he's watching, just so you know, you can make sure that you're not watching everything. Maybe the CEO should turn that off. So when she comments, that doesn't matter. If the CEO was previously watching the conversation, then it'll work. If the CEO was assigned, still be watching, but not every time he puts a thumbs up somewhere, it's going to watch the conversation reopen in his inbox. So
is there any risk to turning that off? Like if I then comment in line, will he see that? I should say it's just 3 people that are in here. So is there any risk if I turn that off for him, or instruct him to turn that off?
Well, I guess it's a matter of testing it and seeing, am I seeing too many things? And if I remove that, do I get less visibility on things that matters? In the end, everything is still accessible in the all section. You're looking for something, it's going to be there. So if the CEO needs to look for something, search here, it's going to be visible. If you have a lot, maybe you need to do a search and use the things we talked about with Dora earlier. Search operators, sorry. Maybe other labels could be used as well, like an urgent label could be applied to that. So then you create a different view based on that label is included, but that label is included as well in those conversations. And maybe now that I think about it, rules could be used as well for that. User action rules here. Whenever a label is applied, something could happen, like watch, for example. And then the CEO is going to watch that conversation as long as, well, not as long as the label is here, because added label name is, but then the opposite could be created as well. Remove label name is, and then unwatch instead.
Yeah.
It would just watch.
Yeah. So in that case, he would still be removing the label, but it would pull that watching function out of it too. So you wouldn't see any kind of chatter there. Or my fear is if I do comment inline back, that kind of thing would still bubble up in his inbox, right?
Depends. The only way you can be sure is, let me take a conversation like from here. You can see right now, everybody sees this conversation because it's in the support inbox. If I assign it to myself, I know now it's archived for everybody else because it's out of the team inbox that everyone had access to. So if I was to say something, you can see hasn't changed a thing for anyone. So if you're not seeing your CEO popping up that avatar in color, then you can mention them. And now that conversation will appear in their personal inbox.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. We're just I feel like we have this Ferrari in our garage, which is missing. We're still struggling with some of these basic things, but it's mostly a function of him just getting very confused in there. So I'm trying, this label is designed to kind of put stuff in a place where it won't disappear from his inbox or get buried by other stuff. And it's doing that. It's just that it's building up too much, becoming another view. So I think pulling the label off is maybe a good first step.
Missive is a toolbox, and labels are one of the tools in that toolbox. It really depends how you want to use it. But in the end, I think using rules, and because I think you had already a good way of thinking of things when you go with, I'm going to use a label for that. So there's a place for that in Missive specifically needs to be used.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how I make sure that place stays tidy. And those rules, the way you're gonna create interactions around that label are gonna be.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Joel's next question: is it possible to create sub-team inboxes or folders? It's not possible. No surprises. Labels are a different things. Oh, sorry. I think I missed Joel's first question. Yes. Before that, it was Jeff. Okay. Joel's first question: can you go over team inboxes best practices? Probably address the second one at the same time here. So for team inboxes, the way you need to see them is it's kind of like the desk of someone, like the secretary's desk. All the mails that come through, you need to assign them to other people after. It's at the top of the desk, and whenever you need to archive it, you put inside the desk in the classified things. because you don't want to keep things open in the support team inbox if no one's actually reading them and no one's taking action on them. The goal of the team inbox at the end of the day is to be empty and for things to be assigned. So if there's something like in the developers team, I would assign it to myself. Now it's out of the team inbox, and all my colleagues know when they go to assign to others that I'm taking care of that conversation. If it's assigned to me, it means I'm the one responsible for closing that conversation, for making sure I reply to the customer, I do that sales call with the person or whatever I need to do. And the way I use assignments in Teams with tasks is there something blocking me from doing something before I close that conversation, before I'm done with it? And that's when I use tasks for this. Let's say here, I don't have the permissions to do a refund to a customer. I would probably create a task here for my coworker too, who has access to it, refund this customer. And then I know I'm still assigned to that conversation. I need to close it, but my colleague needs to do something to unblock me from doing it. Then you can use labels if you need to like create a blocking, unblocked, or like non-urgent, maybe, depending on how you want to categorize things. Yeah. But it's not possible to have sub teams based on where the conversation is. It's either in the team inbox, archived, or assigned. Okay. And adding a label is an extra view outside of a team inbox. Just like we talked with Jeff, it would mean having a label like bugs, for example. That conversation could be in a team inbox, archived, or in the inbox. Or it could be assigned to someone. Label is just an extra data on top of a conversation.
So Philip, I'm having the problem that Jack described. I'm the CEO, and I get way too many emails, and I'm in way too many team inboxes. So I'm flooded with emails, and I'm trying to figure out a way to best manage it. I was thinking of keeping the emails in the team inboxes instead of in my inbox, but I haven't.
You mean your personal emails as well?
All of it, because I look up all the team inboxes. So I don't know if there's a way where we can set the team inbox not to show up on my main inbox. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, technically, with the rule, let's say anything that lands in the team or like linked to a specific team, like here, I don't want to see anything related to developers. They're in the code. I'm in support. I don't want to see this. I could have that rule with archive from personal inbox. So that way you are sure that this information will never land in your personal inbox. Whenever there's an email, maybe you were CC'd in that conversation, maybe you were just mentioned and you're still watching and you forgot to unwatch, that can be done. And you would archive for yourself in that case. That sort of rule can be done for this. Another thing I can think of is your account. You can share it with the team inbox. And then if you're not in the team, you can put yourself as an observer in that team. So you don't get notifications if you have those enabled as well. One thing I did for myself in my preferences, notifications, personally, I have all of that turned off because when I'm in Missive, I'm going to see it. I don't need to get a notification on top of it, like on the right corner of my screen, just to tell me you got something. You see it in your inbox. You see it here too. It's not really needed in my case since I spend all my day in Missive.
All right, so you recommend taking the email and assigning it to the individual, taking it out of the team inbox and putting it in the assignment?
Yeah, that's what I would do. And a rule as well, just to make sure that you don't see those emails anymore if they are in a team inbox and you don't need to do anything. You don't need to act on them anymore.
Yeah, but see, I'm an observer in most of the inboxes, and everything still shows up on my inbox for some reason.
But you mean like your personal inbox, right? Not team inboxes here.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, it's most likely because you are still watching a conversation, or maybe you are CC'd in there, like your personal email is CC'd. That's a possibility. I think what would be best here is I analyze your case more precisely with examples. I don't want you to share your screen right now with me. Let's do that with support. So Missive app, support@missiveapp.com here. I just dropped our email here. You have any questions, send us. Ideally, what we like to have is a Loom, Berrycast, any sort of like recording of your screen so we can see what you're seeing, because ourselves, we don't have access to your emails. We see like the logs and everything, the codes, but we don't see the email content or what things look like. So having sharing of your screen is good. And any conversation where there's something we should investigate, you can copy the link of that conversation like this. So when you send that link to us, we have the conversation ID. We're able to look at it and see, oh, okay, this happened. Joel is watching that conversation, or Joel shouldn't have that happen because, oh, but that rule triggered, like that sort of things, we can look into it.
All right.
Make sense? Okay.
That makes sense.
And by the way, those links, super useful. I'm just sharing that little tip here in case you have never used it. You can copy the link of a conversation at any time. Yes, you can send it to us, but you can refer other conversations into other conversations like this. So if I paste that link here, now I'm linking the other conversation in there. It can be useful when you're not merging anything, like two different customers ask you a same question and you're like, oh, I answered this one earlier today about the refund the company wants. It's just another person requesting this. Referencing conversations together in Missive can be useful for that. So just letting you know, to everybody in this call, you can copy the link and paste that somewhere else like this and reference the conversation. You can also reference a specific email just in case. So here you would go to an email, like I'm going to take this one I sent and copy message link. And when I do this and I paste it like this, you will see you have a reference of the email that was sent directly in Missive. That can be useful sometimes when you need to reference things.
I got a follow-up question. So for business hours, is it possible to set an automatic reply email for customers emailing
outside of business hours? Yeah. So you can do a rule for this for incoming messages. And one of the conditions you will use is, let me have a look here. Oh, reception time. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. Is not within, that's going to be selected. Let's say it's not within Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 to 5. When an email ends before 9 and after 5, then do an action on the rule. And then it would be send response. So you need to have a can response in Missive, a template pre-written that you're going to select and send. So let's say here, I'm just going to use, hey, I'm out of office. Thanks, Phil. This simple one. And I would select here maybe the support team. Right now, this rule would trigger on any email shared with the organization outside of business hours. So this rule, too broad for now. It's best to add extra conditions like, oh, I just want this to trigger when it's in the team support or when it's sent to a specific person or the developers. I don't want that to trigger on all emails all the time outside of business hours.
So this could be organizational wide.
Yeah, this right now is organization wide. If you need to create a personal rule, you would need to go in personal rules. And that would only apply to your personal conversations, like if your email is not shared.
Is it possible to do an automatic reply and then bump the email to the top of the inbox for the following day?
Good question. Reception time. Let me see. Send response. Because the way you could bump it would be probably snooze until next day, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., depending on like when's your. So it means the inbox would be empty. And at 8 a.m. next day, it would show up. But that doesn't count business days. So if that rule triggers on a Friday, next day is going to be
Monday.
Not Monday. It's going to be Saturday. If you get an email on Saturday, then the next day is Sunday. As I said, this snooze doesn't have, like, it doesn't understand business days. Doesn't have that logic in it.
Okay.
Maybe we'll add it at some point, but right now it's not something that's possible. It's either until or for, and it's today, next day, but there's no way to select business days only. So skip Saturday and Sunday.
So like the email, if we're open at 10 a.m. and the email comes in at 8:59, it's going to snooze it until the following day?
In that case, it would snooze today at that time of the day. So anything before 9 would snooze at 9. Like it would unsnooze at 9 on that day.
All right. So, okay. Just trying to see how we don't miss it, but we bump it up to the top of the inbox for the following day.
Yeah, that's something I would try to explore. Doesn't mean it'll work perfectly. As I said, like business days are not counting. So maybe you'd want that rule not to trigger on Friday and have a different rule that triggers on Friday. On Friday, you could have a snooze until Monday. You make that sort of specific rule only for that. So you're able to trick the system to have the rule trigger on those days. Got it? Perfect. Excellent. So last question. I think I have everybody that signed up to the Q&A today, so I wanted to make sure I answer all questions. we created a rule that @mentions show up on the sidebar in addition to the inbox.
I was just mentioning that for, I think it was Jeff that was talking about the CEO
Oh, right.
having to, we created a rule, kind of like your label that you created. If somebody mentions me, even though it's going into my inbox, I added that label to my sidebar so that I can see them if I've been mentioned. I don't know, in case it helped.
No,
Yeah,
that's
if you see on the screen, new comment rule, if there's a
Yeah.
mention in that comment, add a label, and that label is admin mentions in that case. So then I add
Yeah.
that label, as Dora said, a really useful rule, but it's not the same as having like an icon where you could see like, oh, my mentions, and then refer back to them later, because what's going to appear for you is not your mention, but the conversation with the label. So if the mention happened like 10 emails ago, then you kind of still need to scroll up to see that.
Yeah.
So just letting you know, like it's not perfect, but it works.
we mostly stopped using mentions just because I believe it sends an email. Is that right? Like, so it kind
That
of
can be turned off. So
Okay.
probably best if I show you that now. Preferences,
that's good to know.
notifications, send
Oh yeah.
send email notification for missed mentions. Never.
Okay. Good. That's good to know
Yeah.
about. We didn't have that. Maybe just to slip one last question in would be
Yeah, sure.
when would you use send and close versus just send?
Good question. So what I do usually in my personal workflow is I have a conversation in support and I need to move it to the dev inbox. Maybe some of you have interacted with me where I say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I've sent your inquiry, your question, your issue to the dev team. They're going to investigate it. So what I do is I reply and then I do Command Shift. So I'm able to switch between send and close like this. So I'm sending my email with Command Shift Enter in that case, but that conversation stays open on my screen. It stays in my assignments. So then I do Command K and I move to dev like this.
So I guess like the concept there is you want to keep like you don't want it just to go away essentially.
Exactly. That's how I use it as well. Everything that I send, but I keep in my inbox or my assignments, it's because I'm going to reply back later. I'm not done with it. The way you need to see close is the ball's in the customer's court. It's up to them to reply to me now. I've done my part. I've done what I had to do.
Okay.
I proposed them a refund. I'm not going to like do anything
Follow
else
up on
unless they say, yes, I want a refund. Please proceed and do all that stuff. That's how you need to see the close. We don't really have that sort of like pending state in Missive, but keeping a conversation open is kind of like having a pending state in a way.
Yeah, or for whatever reason you do need to follow up on it. You want to keep it open for that purpose. But the send and close is essentially like, unless you respond back to me, I'm never going to see or do anything with this again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And in that case, it can be useful as well to use the send and close, but then snooze the conversation. So, you know, at a certain date, you want to have a reminder. So here, if you snooze now, it's going to
Interesting.
not show in your inbox, but you have this follow-up reminder here. So it sets up a snooze after you send the email. So here, let's say I want to follow up in a month. Now on, I send an email, I send and close. What's going to happen is it's going to reopen in my personal inbox, the assignment's going to reopen as well.
Then you should probably put the snooze on there before you send and close. It's just going to be harder to find otherwise to put that.
Yeah, to put the snooze in advance. And let's say it's late at night, I can also use send later. So it's sent the day after.
Send and close. That's great. That's super helpful. Thank you.
And then if you need to look for your snoozes, just letting you know there's a section when you click on pin to sidebar, main section, snoozed, and you can see all your snooze conversations. Same with send later, same with almost anything. Everything is visible in Missive.
Very cool. Thank you.
All good. Well, I really enjoyed this call today and all the questions we got. Really dynamic. Thanks for joining this call. Before you leave, I'd like to maybe get your quick feedback in the chat, like out of 5-star, what you thought about this demo. Usually I would say, was it too long or too short? But this one has been longer than before and I wanted to do an exception here. Any sort of feedback, I'll be more than happy. If you need to share something more personal with me, it won't be that personal because you're going to send it to support@Missive app, but I'm still going to be the one reading it and the rest of the team as well. But they're going to assign it to me if you need to. Like, I need to talk to Phil. Just say that and they'll assign the conversation to me.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, Phil.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right.